Commander Veltar stood in the bridge of his ship and looked at the data screen in front of him. The blue planet on the display looked small and far away. His long purple fingers moved across the control panel as he read the report about this strange world. "This cannot be right," he said to his assistant. "The creatures on this planet live in such terrible conditions. The planet was called Earth by its people. They called themselves humans. The Galactic Council had marked Earth as a Class 12 death world. This was the worst rating any planet could get. Most thinking beings would die within hours on such a world." Veltar read more of the report. Earth had storms that could destroy entire cities. The ground shook and split open without warning. Mountains exploded and threw hot rock into the air. The oceans were filled with creatures that could eat a being whole. Even the plants were dangerous. Some could kill with just a touch. "How do these humans stay alive on such a world?" asked his assistant. "They are very primitive," Veltar replied. "They have only just learned to leave their planet. They know nothing of real technology." The humans had built one small colony on a world they named New Colorado. Only 50,000 humans lived there. The colony sat right in the path where the Zephyrian Empire wanted to expand. The Galactic Council had already given permission for the Zephyrians to take the system. Veltar sent his report to Admiral Kexler. The Admiral was the leader of all Zephyrian warships. He was known throughout the galaxy as a smart and careful commander. He had won many battles against other space nations. Admiral Kexler read the report in his private room. His ship was the largest in the Zephyrian fleet. It had weapons that could destroy entire cities. The Admiral had never lost a battle in his long life. 50,000 primitive humans, he said to himself. This will be easy. The Admiral called his war council together. 12 of his best commanders sat around a metal table. They looked at maps of the New Colorado system on the wall screens. "The humans have no warships," said Commander Yexlon. "Only civilian transport ships and mining equipment. Their weapons are very basic," added Commander Zartek. "They still use chemical explosives and simple projectile weapons." Admiral Kexlar nodded. "We will take 12 heavy cruisers and my flagship. The operation should take no more than a few hours." "Should we try to talk to them first?" asked Commander Veltar. "Perhaps they will leave without a fight." The Admiral laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "These Deathworlders are too stupid to understand reason. We will give them one chance to surrender. When they refuse, we will show them the power of a real civilization." The other commanders agreed. They had fought many battles against advanced enemies. How hard could it be to defeat some primitive humans from a backward planet? None of them had ever fought beings from a death world before. The Zephyrian battle fleet prepared for departure. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. The crews were confident and relaxed. Many of them saw this mission as an easy way to earn honor and promotion. Admiral Kexler stood on his bridge and watched his ships move into formation. The 12 heavy cruisers formed a perfect line behind his massive flagship. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything the humans had ever built. "Set course for the New Colorado system," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The fleet jumped into hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ships moved faster than the speed of light itself. In just a few days, they would reach the human colony. On New Colorado, Governor Jake Morrison was having his morning coffee when the alarm sounded. He had been a soldier before becoming a colonial leader. He knew the sound of danger. "What is it?" he asked his deputy, Lisa Bennett. "Long-range sensors picked up something big coming out of hyperspace," she replied. "Multiple ships, military configuration." Jake felt his stomach drop. The colony had been peaceful for 5 years. They had never seen any alien ships before. Now a whole fleet was heading their way. "How long until they get here?" he asked. 6 hours, Lisa replied. "Maybe less." Jake looked out the window at the small city his people had built. Children played in the streets. Families worked in their gardens. Nobody knew that death was coming from the stars. The humans on New Colorado were not ordinary colonists. Most of them had been soldiers at some point in their lives. They had volunteered to live on a frontier world because they wanted adventure and a new start. Jake had been a Marine colonel. Lisa had worked for Navy intelligence. Their security chief, Alex Turner, had been a special forces operator. Even their doctor, Maria Rodriguez, had served in the military as a combat medic. "Send a message to Earth," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have visitors. Tell them to send help." "It will take weeks for the message to reach home," Lisa said. "And months for any ships to get here." "I know," Jake replied. "But we have to try." As the alien fleet got closer, the humans on New Colorado prepared for the worst. They had no idea that they were about to make history. They did not know that their actions would change how the entire galaxy thought about the human race. All they knew was that someone was threatening their home, and humans from Earth did not give up their homes without a fight. The stage was set for a battle that would shock the galaxy. On one side was the mighty Zephyrian Empire with their advanced technology and powerful ships. On the other side were 50,000 humans from a death world who refused to run away. The aliens thought it would be an easy victory. They were about to learn why fighting Deathworlders is always a terrible mistake. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace above New Colorado like thunder from a clear sky. 12 massive warships appeared in perfect formation around Admiral Kexlar's flagship. Each ship was dark metal in sharp angles, built for war and intimidation. On the surface of New Colorado, every alarm in the colony began to sound at once. Governor Jake Morrison ran to the command center where Lisa Bennett was already working at the communication station. "They are trying to talk to us," Lisa said. Her face was pale, but her voice stayed steady. "The message is coming through now." The voice that came from the speakers was cold and mechanical. It spoke human words, but with a strange accent that made the hair on Jake's neck stand up. "Primitive humans of the colony New Colorado," the voice said. "I am Admiral Kexlar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your presence in this system is no longer acceptable. You have one rotation of your planet to gather your belongings and leave. Any who remain will be removed by force." Jake looked around the command center. His people stared back at him with fear and anger in their eyes. These were not ordinary colonists. Most of them had been soldiers before coming to this world. They had families and homes here. They would not run away easily. "Send a reply," Jake ordered. Lisa opened the communication channel. Jake took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. "This is Governor Jake Morrison of the New Colorado colony. This is our home. We built it with our own hands. We will not leave because some aliens tell us to. If you want us gone, you will have to fight for it." The communication channel went quiet for several minutes. Then Admiral Kexlar's voice came back. This time it sounded amused. "You think you can fight us, little human? We have 12 warships. You have mining equipment and transport vessels. Surrender now and we will let you live." Jake's jaw tightened. He had heard that tone before from bullies and tyrants. It was the voice of someone who thought they were stronger than everyone else. "You have 12 hours to leave our system," Jake replied. "After that, we will consider you an enemy and act accordingly." The alien admiral's laughter came through the speakers. It was not a nice sound. Then the channel went dead. In the command center, Security Chief Alex Turner was already making plans. He had been a Special Forces soldier for 15 years before coming to New Colorado. He knew how to fight against superior enemies. "We have some advantages," he told the group. "We know this planet better than they do. We have fusion reactors that can be modified, and we have mining charges that pack a big punch." Dr. Maria Rodriguez stepped forward. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but Jake knew she had worked on military projects before becoming a colonial doctor. "I can help with the technical work," she said. "If we are going to fight, we need every advantage we can get." The colonists worked through the night. Mining engineer Pete Williams and his crew began loading explosive charges into the cargo holds of their ore haulers. Maria Rodriguez worked with the reactor technicians to modify their fusion plants into weapons. Alex Turner organized the defense of the colony itself. The buildings were built strong to survive the harsh weather of New Colorado. Underground tunnels connected all the major structures. The colonists had unknowingly built themselves a fortress. As the sun rose over New Colorado, the Zephyrian fleet moved closer to the planet. Admiral Kexler was getting impatient. He had given the humans 12 hours, but he expected them to surrender much sooner. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the humans are not preparing to evacuate. Our sensors show increased activity around their industrial areas." Admiral Kexler frowned. "What kind of activity?" "Unknown, sir. They appear to be modifying their equipment for some purpose." The Admiral decided to teach the humans a lesson. He would destroy one of their orbital stations to show them how hopeless their situation was. "Send the light cruiser Starblade to eliminate the mining platform in orbit," he ordered. "Use minimal force. We want to scare them, not destroy everything." The Zephyrian warship moved toward the human mining station. It was a simple structure built for processing ore from the asteroid belt. The aliens expected no resistance from such a target. Pete Williams was waiting for them. The mining engineer had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. His ore hauler was loaded with every explosive charge the colony could spare. The ship's cargo hold was packed with enough nuclear material to power a small city or destroy a warship. As the alien cruiser approached the mining station, Pete's ship launched from its hiding place behind a large asteroid. The human vessel was much smaller than the Zephyrian warship, but it was moving at full speed straight toward the enemy. "This is Pete Williams of New Colorado," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Nobody threatens my home and gets away with it." The alien ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. Pete's ore hauler smashed into the side of the Zephyrian cruiser at tremendous speed. The nuclear charges in his cargo hold exploded in a ball of fire that lit up space like a new sun. Both ships were destroyed instantly. The explosion was so powerful that it damaged two other Zephyrian vessels nearby. Debris from the blast rained down on the alien fleet. On his flagship, Admiral Kexler stared at the screens in shock. A primitive human in a mining ship had just destroyed one of his cruisers. It should have been impossible. "How did they do that?" he demanded. His tactical officer was checking the sensor readings. "The human ship was loaded with nuclear explosives, Admiral. The pilot deliberately rammed our vessel." "Deliberately?" The Admiral could not believe it. "You mean he killed himself on purpose?" "Yes, sir. The human transmission suggests it was intentional." Admiral Kexler felt something he had never experienced before in battle. Fear. These humans were not like other enemies he had fought. They were willing to die to hurt him. They turned their own deaths into weapons. On New Colorado, the colonists watched the explosion through their telescopes. They cheered for Pete Williams even as they mourned his death. He had shown the aliens that humans would not surrender without a fight. Governor Jake Morrison addressed the colony over the communication system. "Pete Williams died as he lived, protecting the people he cared about," Jake said. "The aliens think they can scare us into running away. They are wrong. This is our home. We will defend it no matter the cost." The colonists prepared for war. They had 50,000 people against 12 alien warships. The odds were terrible, but they were humans from Earth. They had survived on a death world for their entire species' history. They would not give up now. Admiral Kexler realized he had made a serious mistake. These were not ordinary colonists. These were Deathworlders, and they fought like nothing he had ever seen before. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Kexler stood on his bridge and stared at the burning wreckage where his cruiser used to be. The human had destroyed a warship with a mining vessel. It should have been impossible, but the evidence floated in space before his eyes. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "should we withdraw and call for reinforcements?" The Admiral's pride would not let him retreat. He had told the Galactic Council this would be an easy victory. He could not return home defeated by primitive humans. "No," he said through clenched teeth. "We will crush these Deathworlders. Begin orbital bombardment of their military targets." The remaining Zephyrian ships moved into position above New Colorado. Their weapons were designed to destroy enemy fleets in space. Against ground targets, they were like hammers hitting insects. Beams of energy lanced down from the sky and struck the human colony. Buildings exploded in balls of fire. The ground shook as if the planet itself was angry, but the humans had prepared for this attack. Security Chief Alex Turner had spent 5 years turning New Colorado into a fortress without anyone realizing it. The main buildings were built deep into the ground with thick walls designed to survive the planet's terrible storms. The tunnels that connected them were reinforced against earthquakes and floods. Governor Jake Morrison crouched in the underground command center as the alien weapons pounded the surface above. Dust fell from the ceiling with each impact, but the walls held strong. "Damage report," he called out. "Surface structures are taking a beating," reported Lisa Bennett. "But the main colony is intact. The underground sections are holding." "What, about our people?" "Most are in the shelters. We have some injuries, but no deaths so far." Jake nodded. The colonists had practiced emergency drills for years, preparing for storms and natural disasters. They never expected to face alien bombardment, but the same preparations were keeping them alive. Dr. Maria Rodriguez worked frantically in her laboratory. She had converted the medical facility into a weapons factory. Using her knowledge of chemistry and alien biology, she was creating new tools for the fight ahead. "The atmospheric processors can be modified," she told Alex Turner. "We can create gas clouds that will be harmless to us, but deadly to them." Alex smiled grimly. "Do it. And prepare everything else you can think of. We need every advantage." The alien bombardment continued for hours, but the humans refused to surrender. Admiral Kexelar grew more frustrated with each passing minute. His weapons were designed to destroy cities, but the human colony seemed to absorb the punishment and keep fighting. "Send down ground troops," he ordered. "We will take this colony by force." The first Zephyrian landing shuttles touched down near the colony's outer perimeter. The alien soldiers that emerged were tall and thin, with purple skin and large eyes. They wore advanced armor and carried energy weapons that could cut through metal. They had never fought on a death world before. Sam Carter led a group of human defenders to meet the alien landing force. Sam had been a demolitions expert in the Earth military before coming to New Colorado. He knew how to use the planet's harsh environment as a weapon. The Zephyrian soldiers advanced across the rocky ground toward the human settlement. Their armor protected them from the alien weapons, but not from the planet itself. Sam's team had prepared the battlefield carefully. They used the mining equipment to dig hidden trenches and plant explosive traps. When the aliens walked into the killing ground, the humans were ready. The first explosion caught the Zephyrians completely by surprise. A hidden charge blew a crater in the ground and sent several alien soldiers flying through the air. Before they could recover, more explosions erupted all around them. The aliens tried to retreat, but Sam's team had blocked their escape routes. The humans used mining charges like artillery shells, hurling them from hidden positions. Each explosion sent deadly fragments of rock and metal through the alien ranks. "Fall back to the shuttles," the Zephyrian commander ordered. But the shuttles were no longer safe. Tony Williams, Pete's younger brother, had led a team of engineers to sabotage the landing craft. Using nothing but mining tools and industrial chemicals, they had turned the alien vehicles into traps. When the surviving Zephyrian soldiers reached their shuttles, the human sabotage became clear. Fuel lines had been cut and filled with explosive compounds. Control systems had been damaged with acid from the mining operations. Several shuttles exploded when their crews tried to start the engines. The Zephyrian ground assault was a complete disaster. More than half their soldiers were dead or wounded. The survivors were trapped on the surface with no way to escape. Admiral Kexelar watched the destruction of his ground forces with growing horror. These humans fought unlike any enemy he had ever faced. They used their own planet as a weapon. They turned industrial equipment into military assets. They seemed to treat death as just another tool in their arsenal. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the second wave of shuttles is requesting permission to abort the landing." "Denied," the admiral snapped. "We cannot be defeated by a handful of primitives." But even as he spoke, Kexelar knew he was wrong. These were not primitives. These were survivors from the most dangerous world in known space. They had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to fight against impossible odds. On the surface, Dr. Maria Rodriguez released her modified atmospheric gases. The chemicals spread across the battlefield like fog, invisible and deadly to alien biology but harmless to human lungs. Zephyrian soldiers began collapsing as their respiratory systems failed. Alex Turner, coordinated the defense from his command post. He had turned the entire colony into a weapon. Every tunnel was a firing position. Every building was a fortress. Every colonist was a soldier who knew how to use the planet's dangers against their enemies. The second wave of Zephyrian troops landed to find a nightmare waiting for them. The humans had poisoned the air and turned the ground itself into a trap. Mining equipment had been converted into mobile weapons platforms. Even the children were helping by carrying supplies through tunnels too small for adult aliens to follow. Governor Jake Morrison watched the battle from his underground command center. His people were outnumbered and outgunned, but they were winning. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had something more important. They had the will to survive. The Zephyrians came from peaceful garden worlds where conflict was rare and casualties were minimal. They had never learned to fight, with the desperate fury of beings who had nothing left to lose. The humans came from Earth, where survival meant constant struggle against a planet that was actively trying to kill them. They had learned that sometimes the only way to win was to be more dangerous than the danger itself. As night fell over New Colorado, Admiral Kexler faced a terrible truth. He had brought a fleet to conquer 50,000 primitive humans. Instead, he was losing a war against Deathworlders who refused to die quietly. The real nightmare was just beginning. The emergency beacon launched from New Colorado just hours before the alien attack began. It was a small device, no bigger than a basketball, but it carried the most important message in human history. Lisa Bennett had programmed it with a simple transmission that would repeat forever as it traveled through space toward Earth. The message was only 7 words long, but those words would change everything. Human colony under attack. Send everything. Help. 3 weeks later, the beacon reached Earth's outer sensor networks. The automated systems immediately forwarded the message to Earth Defense Force headquarters. Within minutes, every alarm in the building was screaming. Admiral Helen Carter was eating breakfast when her emergency communicator began buzzing. She had been a naval officer for 30 years and had never heard the device make such an urgent sound. "Admiral Carter here," she answered. "Ma'am, we have a code red emergency," came the voice of her aide. "Human colony under alien attack. You need to get to headquarters immediately." Helen dropped her coffee cup and ran for her car. As she drove through the morning traffic, her mind raced with possibilities. Humanity had made contact with several alien species, but all interactions had been peaceful. An attack on a human colony was unthinkable. At headquarters, the Situation Room was filled with officers and analysts. Captain Roy Evans, commander of the experimental dreadnought UES Retribution, was already there studying tactical displays. "What do we know?" Admiral Carter asked. "The message came from New Colorado," reported her intelligence chief. "That's Jake Morrison's colony. 50,000 civilians, mostly former military personnel and their families." Helen's face went pale. She had served with Jake Morrison during the Mars campaign 20 years ago. He was a good man with a family of his own. "How long ago was the message sent?" she asked. 3 weeks. If they were under attack when they sent it, the officer didn't need to finish the sentence. Admiral Carter made the fastest military decision in Earth's history. "Alert all fleet commands. I want every available warship ready for immediate departure. Contact the civilian shipping companies. We need transport vessels, cargo haulers, anything that can carry people and supplies." "Ma'am," Captain Evans said carefully, "we don't know how many alien ships we're facing. Shouldn't we gather intelligence first?" Helen turned to face him. Her eyes were hard as steel. "Captain, those are our people out there. I don't care if the entire alien galaxy is attacking them. We go in with everything we have." The response from Earth was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, every military base on the planet was mobilizing. Warships that had been in maintenance were rushed back into service. Reserve crews were called up from retirement, but the military response was only the beginning. News of the attack spread across Earth's communication networks like wildfire. Every major news station broadcast the story. Social media exploded with anger and demands for action. Humanity had been attacked, and the entire species wanted revenge. Captain Nick Foster commanded a merchant vessel called the Golden Eagle. It was a cargo hauler designed to carry grain and manufactured goods between Earth and the outer colonies. When he heard about New Colorado, he immediately contacted Earth Defense Force headquarters. "I want to volunteer my ship for the rescue mission," he told them. "Sir, this is a military operation," the officer replied. "Civilian vessels are not equipped for combat." "Then equip us," Nick said firmly. "Those people out there are humans. That makes this our fight too." Within days, hundreds of civilian ships were being converted into makeshift warships. Cargo vessels received armor plating and missile launchers. Passenger liners were turned into troop transports. Even scientific research ships were fitted with electronic warfare equipment. The human fleet that assembled in Earth orbit was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Military dreadnoughts flew alongside converted merchant vessels. Mining ships carried nuclear charges meant to be used as weapons. Transport vessels were packed with volunteer fighters from every nation on Earth. Sergeant Linda Murphy had been retired from the Marines for 5 years when the call went out for volunteers. She specialized in demolitions and had fought in 3 different conflicts. When she heard about New Colorado, she immediately reported for duty. "I thought you were done with the military," her husband said. "I was," Linda replied as she packed her gear. "But nobody attacks humans and gets away with it." Thousands of former soldiers answered the call. Corporal Dan Brooks had been out of the Army for a decade, but he still remembered his Special Forces training. He joined a unit of volunteers heading for New Colorado aboard a converted cruise ship. The fleet that left Earth 3 days later was massive. Admiral Carter commanded from her flagship, surrounded by the most powerful warships humanity had ever built. Behind her came wave after wave of military and civilian vessels, all heading toward the same destination. Captain Roy Evans stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched the fleet jump into hyperspace. He had never seen so many human ships in one place. The sight filled him with pride and determination. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from colonies throughout human space. They want to join the fleet." "What kind of messages?" "Every human settlement within 50 light years is sending ships. The colony at New Texas is dispatching their entire defense force. The mining stations around Jupiter are converting their equipment haulers into weapons platforms." Roy smiled grimly. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were attacking one small colony. Instead, they had declared war on the entire human race. The journey to New Colorado would take 5 days at maximum hyperspace speed. During that time, the human fleet continued to grow. Ships joined them from every direction as word spread throughout human space. Admiral Carter spent her time planning the battle ahead. She had no idea what kind of enemy they would face, but it didn't matter. The aliens had attacked humans, and that could not be allowed to stand. "Ma'am," Captain Evans asked during one of their planning sessions, "what if we're too late? What if the colony has already fallen?" Helen looked at him with cold determination. "Then, we make sure the aliens regret it for the rest of their very short lives." On New Colorado, the battle continued to rage. The human colonists had no idea that help was coming. They fought on alone, using every trick and weapon they could devise. But their ammunition was running low, and their defenses were being slowly worn down. Governor Jake Morrison stood in his command bunker and looked at the tactical display. The alien ship still controlled the sky above his world. His people were brave and resourceful, but they couldn't hold out forever. "Sir?" Lisa Bennett reported. "Long-range sensors are picking up something." "More alien ships?" Jake asked wearily. "No, sir," Lisa said with growing excitement. "These are human ships, lots of them. It looks like the entire Earth Defense Force is coming." Jake felt hope for the first time in weeks. Help was coming. Earth had not forgotten them. The aliens were about to learn what happened when you attacked the human race. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Colorado system, like an avalanche of metal and fury. Admiral Helen Carter stood on the bridge of her flagship and counted the ships on her display. 237 vessels had answered Earth's call for help. "My God," whispered Captain Roy Evans from beside her. "Look at them all." The fleet stretched across space in a formation that had never been seen before. Military dreadnoughts flew next to converted cargo ships. Passenger liners bristled with hastily mounted weapons. Even small civilian craft had joined the armada. determined to help rescue their fellow humans. Admiral Kexlar watched the human fleet arrive on his sensors and felt his blood turn cold. Where he had expected to face a few desperate rescue ships, an entire battle fleet had appeared. The humans had brought everything they had. "How many ships?" he asked his tactical officer. 237 confirmed contacts, Admiral. More arriving every few minutes." Kexlar stared at the numbers in disbelief. His own fleet had been reduced to 8 functional warships after weeks of fighting the stubborn colonists. Now he faced odds of nearly 30 to 1. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the human fleet is broadcasting a message." "Admiral," Carter's voice came through the speakers, clear and cold as space itself. "This is Admiral Helen Carter of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked human civilians without provocation. You have exactly 10 minutes to surrender your ships and prepare to be boarded. If you refuse, we will destroy every one of your vessels." On New Colorado's surface, Governor Jake Morrison heard the transmission in his underground command bunker. After weeks of desperate fighting, help had finally arrived. Around him, his battered colonists cheered and wept with relief. "Jake," Admiral Carter's voice continued on a private channel. "This is Helen. Are you still alive down there?" "Still here, Admiral," Jake replied. "Bruised but not beaten. These aliens picked the wrong fight. We're going to finish it for them. Stay in your bunkers until we give the all clear." Admiral Kexlar faced an impossible choice. He could surrender and face disgrace, or fight and face certain death. His pride would not let him surrender, but his tactical sense told him the battle was already lost. "All ships," he ordered, "prepare for combat. We will show these humans that the Zephyrian Empire does not yield to primitive threats." The battle began when the human fleet moved into attack formation. Captain Nick Foster's converted merchant, ship Golden Eagle, led a squadron of civilian vessels against the alien flank. His cargo hold was packed with volunteers armed with anything they could find. "Remember," Nick broadcast to his squadron, "these aliens hurt our people. Make them pay for it." The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness of space. Zephyrian energy beams met human missiles in explosions that could be seen from the planet's surface. But the humans had learned from their enemies' tactics during the siege of New Colorado. Sergeant Linda Murphy was aboard a converted passenger liner when it rammed straight into a Zephyrian cruiser. She led a boarding party through the breach, fighting the alien crew in their own corridors. The Zephyrians had never faced human soldiers in close combat before. They were not prepared for the ferocity of beings from a death world. Captain Roy Evans commanded the UES Retribution in a direct assault on Admiral Kexlar's flagship. The human dreadnought was smaller than the alien vessel, but its crew fought with a desperation that terrified the enemy. "Target their weapons systems," Roy ordered. "I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We need prisoners." The space battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The humans fought with a coordination that seemed impossible for such a mixed fleet. Military vessels worked seamlessly alongside civilian ships. Former enemies from Earth's various nations fought side by side against the alien threat. Corporal Dan Brooks led a commando team that infiltrated a damaged Zephyrian ship. Using demolition charges, they destroyed the vessel's power systems from the inside. The alien crew surrendered rather than face more of the terrifying human boarders. On the planet's surface, the surviving Zephyrian ground troops found themselves surrounded. The colonists emerged from their underground shelters, armed with improvised weapons and burning for revenge. Dr. Maria Rodriguez led medical teams that treated wounded aliens with the same care they gave to humans, showing a mercy the invaders had never expected. Admiral Kexlar's flagship was the last alien ship still fighting. Its hull was breached in dozens of places and its weapons were destroyed. The admiral himself was wounded and most of his crew was dead or captured. "Sir," his surviving communications officer said, "the humans are demanding our surrender again." Kexlar looked around his ruined bridge. He had brought 12 powerful warships to crush a small human colony. Now his fleet was destroyed and his empire's reputation was in ruins, all because he had underestimated the beings from a death world. "Open a channel," he said quietly. Admiral Carter's face appeared on his screen. Her expression was hard but not cruel. Admiral Kexler, I presume. Are you ready to surrender? I am, he replied. But I do not understand. How did you defeat us so completely? We had superior technology and training. Helen looked at him with something that might have been pity. You made a simple mistake, Admiral. You assumed that technology was more important than the will to fight. Humans have been surviving on a death world for millions of years. We know how to fight when our backs are against the wall. The battle for New Colorado was over. The human fleet had destroyed or captured every Zephyrian ship. Thousands of alien prisoners were taken into custody, but they were treated with dignity and given medical care. The news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy within days. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in known space, had been utterly defeated by a species most other races considered primitive. The Galactic Council immediately opened diplomatic relations with Earth. Other alien empires that had been planning expansion into human territory quietly abandoned their plans. The classification of Earth as a Class 12 death world suddenly carried new meaning throughout the galaxy. Captain Nick Foster was appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. His civilian fleet, which had fought alongside the military vessels, became the foundation for humanity's merchant marine and exploration services. The Zephyrian prisoners were eventually released and returned to their home worlds. They carried with them a simple message that spread throughout their empire and beyond. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The species from the death world had proven that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one you dismissed as harmless. Admiral Kexler spent the rest of his life writing military analyses of the battle. His final report became required reading in war colleges across the galaxy. The title said everything that needed to be said about the conflict. Why engaging in war with Deathworlders is an absolutely horrible idea. The human colony on New Colorado was rebuilt stronger than before. Governor Jake Morrison erected a memorial to Pete Williams and the other humans who had died defending their home. The inscription was simple but powerful. They came from the stars to destroy us. They learned that humans do not surrender. They learned that our home is worth fighting for. They learned that attacking Deathworlders is always a mistake. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They were no longer just another primitive species struggling to survive on a dangerous world. They were Deathworlders, and the galaxy would never underestimate them. Again,